PLD Projects presents Holy Snokes, a Star Wars podcast, featuring PLD and Matty Gunner. May the Force be with you, always. It is a joy. It is an absolute joy that we are getting new Star Wars on television, and it is well liked, celebrated, positive. It is great feeling, a breath of fresh air. This whole I am just a happy guy. Welcome to Holy Snokes, the Star Wars podcast. I'm PLD. This is Matty Gunner, and we're here to talk about Skeleton Crew.
We're here to talk about how these kids are so damn woke, how Disney's ruining everything, how Crimson Jack isn't even crimson. What's up, everyone?
It really is. It really is. It's like, I'm not going to get into the whole the act like thing. Whatever it is, what it is, it's all gone now at this point.
Dude, I said the word woke within the first 2 minutes. This episode is going to do incredible. Watch the views on this episode just go nuts because I said the word woke.
Well, that's the thing. Even like I love the fact that even the negative reviews or not even negative, even like the negative side of other things. Because not everybody loves every show. That's absolutely fine. I absolutely get it. It's not for you or whatever. But even those are kind of more of like the side of, this isn't for me.
Did you see the review bombs for this?
No, I didn't see any for this.
Oh, dude, there have been some. I saw one that said this show is so woke. The girls are the strong characters and the boys are bumbling idiots. I'm like, my brother in Satan, did you see the Goonies? Did you see Hook?
That's been a long
time.
The
boys are idiots.
Yes, because the boys are generally idiots.
Because little boys are genuinely idiots. I'm 33. You're 962.
True, absolutely.
We're both still idiots.
Yes, absolutely. And well, yeah, it is what it is. Anyway, that's done with. Let's celebrate this thing. I really 3 episodes in. I am so happy to have this show. This is such a fun, wild adventure, full of joy, full of Star Wars vibe. Like this one, even more felt like a Star Wars show. Like there's some not complaining. I'm like, it doesn't feel like Star Wars to me, which is fine. It felt like more Goonies in space. I get that, but this even felt more it just has that vibe, that fun adventure vibe of you get to sit down, watch a Star Wars for 40 minutes or whatever it was, and you get to escape. And it's just well-crafted storytelling, great characters. I am so happy. But
John Watts.
Good job, John. Yes. This might be my favorite Star Wars TV show. Maybe live action. It's up there. As someone who likes the connectivity, Mandalorian season 1 and 2 is definitely up there. Obi-Wan I love, Ahsoka I love. There's something so good about so fun about just being I'm sitting back and relaxing and not thinking at all in a way, which is it's actually kind of a nice fun feeling. It's just an escape of all escapes. And the funny thing is there are connective tissues and everything else. There's definitely rewards to being a Star Wars fan and watching this show, but you absolutely don't need to be. You don't have to Star Wars. You could go onto this show and have never seen any Star Wars show, or any Star Wars film, anything Star Wars, and still have fun and escapism and entertainment. And there's something that's so refreshing about that to me.
Does it take you back to being 6 years old in Boston, New York? I do hope for the first time. That's a callback from an older joke. Go back and watch our previous episodes.
Yes, it does. That's absolutely what it is. It does take you back to those good old days of yore, where I didn't have to worry about anything. And it reminds me of watching Star Wars before Star Wars became Star Wars in a way. So and that's not to say that I'm not looking forward to Ahsoka season 2, and I'm looking forward to the next Rey movie. I absolutely am. But there's something special about this, and so it's definitely up there for me, and I'm excited about that. So
a little behind the scenes. I don't like to tell Paul anything about what I feel about these shows. I like to say this when we're here. I very rarely talk to Paul about anything Star Wars related anymore because we have this show. It used to be I would text Paul all the time, but now because of this show, I'm going to save it till we can sit down and talk. The one thing I text Paul after this episode was, "God, this show rules."
Yeah, you couldn't help yourself, and I was so happy you did too.
I couldn't help myself. I was just like, "This show is awesome."
It's just joy. It's just joy is my word. One word I can use to describe it. It's just wonderful all the way through. And we're going to find out why. Because we're going to have a big discussion about Skeleton Crew here on the show, as well as we'll get some news.
You know where we do have really good discussions, though, Paul?
What is that?
In the Facebook chat, which people can get access to by joining the Patreon.
Patreon.com/PLD Projects. A nice little ad there. God, I knew I hired you for some reason. PLD Projects.
John, what can they do?
They can join Patreon. Well, you join Patreon.com/PLD Projects, like Austin Gonzalez, Brandon Buckingham. Great crew there. We do that Facebook chat. Get some early episodes of shows, which is great. But if you can't help it, or you can't join that way, can't help financially that way, which I completely understand, you can always help us by doing small little things like liking, subscribing, notifications, leaving reviews on the audio side of things, leaving comments, discuss that with us. It always helps us fight the almighty algorithm. Let the scene, get this.
Al Gore's rhythm.
Al Gore's rhythm. Yes, the evil empire that is Al Gore's rhythm. Who created the internet, by the way. Yes.
Now, you think that's a joke? The great, powerful Alden Diaz said that to me like a few weeks ago. I was like, holy shit, that's what Al Gore rhythm is? Al Gore rhythm.
That's right. That's what it is.
I only figured that out like a few weeks ago when Alden told me. I was like, oh.
That's what it is. Absolutely. But, before we get into the show and talk about this week's episode, I do want to say you had a brush with Star Wars this week.
Yeah, shout out to the Metal Gear community. MGS Con got funded and got to have a little bit of a chinwag with Vanessa Marshall, and she is one of the coolest. I don't want to talk about it too much because it's like a bit of a name drop moment, and those bits make me but yeah, I got to have Vanessa Marshall, who does the voice of Dr. Strangelove, and Olga Galukovich for Metal Gear Solid. Got to chat with her on a stream, and it was cool as hell. She was absolutely lovely. I mentioned that I love Star Wars, and she was like, "That's awesome. I'm a Star Wars fan too." I hope she is, because if she's just saying that to be nice, then
it'll break your heart.
Well, who cares? But yeah, man, it was cool. It's nice when people that make the things that you love are not only really cool, but this convention. Shout out to Amanda, Brandy, Tim. This is a fan-run convention. Kojima, Konami have nothing to do with this convention.
Right.
This was a $75,000 Kickstarter campaign run by fans, and then you have people like Vanessa Marshall, David Hayter, just all the voice actors getting together and helping push this thing.
That's awesome.
So when you have someone like Vanessa who not only does that but talks to the fans on a regular basis,
right? That's cool. That's cool. I mean, that's awesome.
So. It's rad.
Excellent. I just had a name drop for you because I was so happy for you.
Yeah, that's fine. You can do it. It makes me feel lucky.
I'd love to have a conversation with Vanessa Marshall. It'd be awesome. Wish you dropped on there and go, "Hey, you should jump on the show, Holy Snokes." But I understand.
You have access to Lo-Katan herself, so I could say the same thing about you.
That's true. Technically speaking, I got to.
Can we get Matt Sarah on the show?
At some point, probably good. I probably try to talk about Matt Sarah.
I got some questions for Matt Sarah.
I'm sure you would. Have a good time with that. But all right, let's get into today's episode. There, talking about Skeleton Crew 1x3, the third episode. And I gotta say, I love the names of the episodes so far. This one very interesting. As an astrogation problem, just a line from the episode. It's an interesting way to do it. We are continuing from last week, obviously, where we left the kids in jail. We had met Jod Janawood as he had used the Force and was a Jedi.
He said it a weird way this time as well. He was like Jod Janawood.
Jod Janawood. Yeah, it was. I like it. I don't know if I can ever repeat it, but it's a good old Jod. That's what I would say. Good old Jod. Or you can call him Captain Silvo. Or you can call him Crimson Jack. We're going to find out what else we got going on here. But what a fun episode overall. And if you've never been here before, we like to, before we go through we don't go through the whole episode bit by bit. We just go through these segments, the greatest hits of the episode, so to speak, hits and misses, and then we'll talk about the rest as we get towards the end. So let's get right into our categories. The first category we always start with Hondo Watch 2024, almost 2025, which is a simple segment. Did Hondo Ohnaka make an appearance in this episode? One of the greatest characters of all time, our holy Snokes patron saint. Did Hondo make an appearance? The answer, my friend,
have to go down to DEFCON level 1.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I realized why, partially. I mentioned this to my son, who's also a big Hondo head.
Of course, he's your son.
Absolutely.
I would expect nothing else.
Exactly. Absolutely. I do believe I'm more and more that I wouldn't. I actually think we're probably not going to get him. And the reason why,
don't say it.
The reason why is because Jaja Nawad is actually kind of a Hondo-like character in a way. He's kind of got that, I'm a little bumbling. You don't know you can trust him. He's got a kind of heart of gold, but not really back and forth thing going on. He kind of feels like this could actually, if Hondo had the Force or is able to trick people into using the Force, which we'll get into that still, you feel like he could have led the show, and it would have been exactly the kind of thing that you're watching today. So that's why I'm thinking maybe not. I don't know.
Let me stop you right there.
Go ahead.
I see your logic, and I have a counterpoint.
Okay.
If they were going to do that, why would they have brought in Lando when they already have Han Solo?
That's a good point. That's a good point. There's a point there. I mean, it could be the point also that Jaja Nawad's going to maybe turn towards the light side, whereas Hondo would stay more selfish. Maybe they'll use him as a counterpoint himself. I mean, it could be. You still could see him. I'm not.
Can you imagine like Hondo meeting Jod and realizing, seeing like, you're a pirate, but you're a Jedi. My friend was a Jedi.
Yeah, that could be pretty cool. That could be really cool.
How much would he love to meet a pirate who is like, he's not a Jedi,
right?
But that he's not a Jedi, but a pirate who can do the things that a Jedi can. You don't think Hondo's going to be like, did we just become best friends?
Yeah, it could possibly be. Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised now as much as I would have been. Like when Skeleton Crew came out, I was like, Hondo's got to be in this. Like he's got to be in this. Now I'm kind of like, I kind of understand if they don't do it, but I'd be sad anyway.
My question is, did the Katuni survive their escape?
That is a big question. I was looking for it. I tried to see it. I couldn't find it, but my eyes are not as good as they used to be. So as you said, I'm 962 years old. So I don't know about that, but we'll just see. Hopefully that comes clear later on. Or maybe somebody who has a better eagle eyes than me can find that. And they frame by frame, they slow the footage down and make sure is the Katuni safe? Is it all right? I don't know, but I mean, Hondo does need a ship at some point, so maybe he does. That could be.
What if the one appearance we got from Hondo was during the escape and he's just like waving his fist? And that's what gets us to DEFCON 4.
Right. Oh God, yeah. I still hope we see him, but I understand if I kind of understand if we don't. And
we have to. This is
the
show.
I did. My ears picked up as soon as he said we were going to find a friend who might run away. Then he said she, and I went, oh.
But my ears did prick up when he said she, because I was like, we going to see Maz Kanata?
I got to be honest. When I first heard Kim speak, I was like, that does sound a little like Maz Kanata a little bit at first. I was like, is that Maz? It was like, this is a weird space for her to be in. I mean,
when I saw the planet, I was like, okay, it's not her.
But like, I kind of like in my head, I'm like, well, maybe she has more than one area. Who knows? She's a space pirate, but it wasn't her. But that's okay. In fact, Watts did come out and say that there's not going to be any insane cameos. It's not a cameo job. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get anybody, and that's okay. I think Star Wars.
I don't think Maz is that insane of a cameo.
I know. I don't think she is either. But the way he said that was insane cameos. I kind of think like it meant more anybody really we know. Like the cameos we're going to get are ones we got like the Battle Droid. Or like something like that, or a Jawa, or something like that, or we might get something like real, but like, which we'll get to that. I love all that stuff, absolutely. But it's funny. I think,
Jawas.
Someone for Star Wars has trained us, I think, for better or for worse, to be on the lookout for that moment where there's a name drop or a character drop. We kind of like have been looking for that almost in a way.
Has
And I
Star Wars
generally
trained us
don't.
to do that, or has the YouTube
No,
space trained us to do that?
well, it's a little bit of hand in hand because Star Wars provides that so the YouTube people can look for that. 'Cause we've had a lot of those kind of situations where we've had characters. Oh, that's that character. Oh, that's awesome. And as a connectivity fan, I love that. Some people have like said they're over it. They don't like it as much. It seems like it makes the universe smaller. And I get both sides of the coin. I prefer to be on the side where we get to see more characters because I want to see the characters I love, and that connectivity rewards me as a Star Wars fan to me. But at the same time, I feel like I'm almost too trained for it. So like I'm just like, oh, looking for it. When it doesn't happen, I get that slight like quick twinge of disappointment. But then we get some of that character like him, and this I'm like, oh, and now we got a new character that's just as cool as massively.
Yeah, we got a new character.
Right, absolutely. So it's like I got to retrain myself in a way to like not jump to conclusions like an Office Space or something. But that's okay. That ends. That's all in Hondo Center or Hondo Center. Hondo Watch 2024. Still at DEFCON level.
We've gone back down. We've gone down from 2 to 1.
Okay, back down from 2 to 1. All right. We'll see. We still have a shot left. We still have like, what is it? 5 episodes left. That was 8 episodes total. 5. So 5 episodes. All right. Let's get into our next segment. And the next segment is the crew member of the week. This is where we talk about our favorite character of the week. It could be anybody. It could be someone actually in the skeleton crew, or it could be a battle droid. It could be a Jawa. It could be Hondo on the Katsuni if that's in your headcanon. Matty, who is your crew member of the week?
I'm so glad that I said what I said last week because I feel like I got somewhat rewarded this week. KB is my crew member of the week.
Yes.
We hear at the start of the episode, we'll go into this when we get to our Adventure of the Week segment, that she has a life monitor on her because of an illness or a condition that she has. She does not buy Jod's bullshit one bit. And she is not afraid to call him out. I love the bit where like Jod like walks into the cabin when all the kids are asleep. And he just turns and KB's just sitting up. And he goes, "You don't sleep, do you?" She just flicks the Cyclops visor up. And it's just like, you're not a Jedi. Like, yeah. I'm not stupid. It's just like, I calculated the odds.
Never tell me the odds.
Never tell me the odds. But
no, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. I gotta say, I bring up my son. I should just have Tyler on here one day.
Tyler will be a seasonal co-host one day.
Yeah.
When he animates for Star Wars, when he animates for Lucasfilm,
absolutely,
be a seasonal co-host.
Absolutely. He mentioned it to me too, and like he voiced exactly what I was trying to think of, like make up my own head. He's like, he loves the fact, because I love the fact that all the kids are getting their due. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, because we had talked about it last week that KB was the one that kind of like, not called the shaft, but definitely Neil was. They all had their moments. The KB was kind of like a little bit in the background as far as that goes. And this week, what do? They compensate. And honestly, like Neil was a little bit in the background this time, a little bit comparatively. KB kind of had her moments to shine throughout, and she delivered. Her character is a tough one to pull off because it's very kind of stoic in a way. Her character is kind of stoic, very low key. So it almost feels like is it like the kid
Tech.
actor not?
You compared her to Tech.
Yeah.
That's exactly what she's like. She's like Tech.
But when it's a child actor who are notoriously sometimes, it's hard to sometimes because they're kids, and I'm never going to slam a kid actor. But sometimes it's believable. I forget who it was that said. I think it was. I want to say I watched Heroes or Forge talk about it, and they said sometimes kids actors just you watch them, and even if they're good, like you can't help saying they're kids acting. You know what I mean? Like these kids never felt like that. KB was the closest in the first because she didn't have much to do, and she was just kind of like a almost plain face kind of character. But you realize in this one, that's just her character. Her character is very stoic, is very like, in that Data model, like that kind of like, that like kind of very just, she's not like extremely emotional. She's very kind of rational and logical. But she plays it off very well. And like you said, she kind of has that moment. It shows the intelligence beneath her stoic face when she's getting into it with John. And she has that moment to shine. So I do think that's a great choice. And like, yeah, all the kids have got to have their moment to shine. And in 3 episodes, they've all had their little bits and pieces. So they feel like a complete crew, not just a leader and the rest of the crew kind of thing.
But she's brave too. You would think that like Data, she'd be a little bit like fearful, like she'd be like more reserved and quiet. But then you have the scene where they're standing on the ramp, and she's just like, "No, you're not getting on until you tell us who you really are."
He pushes him, yeah.
Yeah,
no problem there. He's like, she's going to stand up for what she believes in, absolutely. Yeah, I liked her a lot. It's a good choice. My choice is probably maybe a basic bitch choice, but I can't help it. Jude Law would just stole the show for me. Jude Law, acclaimed child actor Jude Law,
acclaimed child actor Jude Law.
He delivered exactly what I wanted him to deliver in this show. When I heard he was in this show, I heard him talking about this character. And that's one of our news bits. I'll tease for one of the news.
Just a complete rat bastard.
Jude did a great interview with Entertainment Weekly, and it showcased all these like little things that he did and discussed to build this character out. And he's exactly a rat bat. He's like, he is the perfect swag. He got the swagger. He's got the Star Wars humor. He's got that adventure vibe. He's got that, like, you want to trust him, but you know better. But maybe if you held to him, you want to root for the guy, even though you know he's a little bit of a bastard. And you're waiting for the shoe to drop. But you're kind of also waiting for the shoe to drop again on the other side. It's just that you kind of know the arc a little bit, potentially what probably going to happen in a way. But if it's done right and it's done with the panache that Jude Law can deliver it, you like it, you want to see it happen. And he is rightfully like kind of like leading the crew, leading these four actors. They're playing well off of him, and he's playing well off of them. It's a great chemistry. It's a perfect delivery. It's very rare that somebody lives up to exactly what you want them to be in a show, like when you just from trailers and stuff. And he is exactly what I wanted from him. He even had that moment in there of I felt was really him when they're on the ramp. They're on the ramp.
Oh, yeah.
And he just comes up, I'm like you. And like that felt like there's a genuine moment there. And that's what gets you to like get your hooks in. Because you kind of need that with these characters. If you get that a little bit, like you kind of like get the just a little chink in the armor, you're like, okay, let's see what it is.
You also question it, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Like, was that true or was that not? You don't know.
Is he saying that just to get on the ship?
And he could be, but even as he's saying that, you can tell that there's like something real in that moment. There's something beneath he's not just the pirate. It's like when Hondo, that moment when Hondo like winked at Katuni. Hondo winked at Katuni in the way, or that kind of thing. Like those little moments like that are real in beneath the shiny veneer of the exterior, or in this case, the rat bastard veneer, I should say. But yeah, so Jude Law, I think he might be my favorite of the show at this point. And yeah, even after the first episode. And that's not a slight against the kids. That's just how great he is. Because he has that kind of charisma. He's got that charisma feel and everything else. So I love it. Love Josh.
I gotta say, and I gotta shout this person out as well as like a little honorary mention. You picked him last week. And if it hadn't been for KB, for me, Nick Frost is Smee starting to steal this whole thing.
That would be my choice number 2. Absolutely. He's like got these small moments, but man, are they like.
There's one moment that I'm going to talk about in a couple segments time that I'm like.
I might be too. The glue that holds the show together in a way, honestly. It's just those little moments that kind of keep everything going. I love it. So, all right, let's move on to our next segment, which is I Spec, the favorite line of dialogue in the week, because there's always some good quotable stuff going on here in Star Wars. And I'll go first with this one if you don't mind. And it's a great transition because it was a Smee line.
Oh, I hope it's the same one I've got.
I the pause, delivery, the way it throws shot off. You like what? It was just so perfectly done. Such a Nick Frost way. It's just I can't even like the line itself isn't it's a normal line, whatever, but it's the way that Nick Frost delivers it on the floor laughing about it.
I'm going to add to it because my line was the line before it.
Okay.
It's when Judd walks up to him and he says, "Are these kids really from Mad Iron?" And he goes, "I'll tell you what I know and mark my words because I won't be repeating them.
Repeat.
Definitely from somewhere. I. I never would have pictured Nick Frost as a pirate.
I know, neither, man. It's perfect.
Next time there's a stage show of Hook in the West End, Nick Frost better be playing Hook.
That'd be a great role choice for him. Absolutely. It's funny because like Kim, my wife, watches these shows with me. She watches Star Wars with me, but she's not a Star Wars like head. Like she doesn't know all the stuff going on. Like she doesn't pay attention to things. She had no idea that Nick Frost was in it at all. Like, and at the end, she saw the character. Oh, Nick Frost is in this. Like, I'm like, you saw him last week, Kim. But it's all right. You weren't paying attention. That's okay. But it's like Nick Frost. That's perfect. That's me. I'm like, and she loves it too. I'm like, that makes sense because he does pull off that kind of panache that you were talking about, that kind of like gravitas from it, that you know this guy, you know he's going to deliver, and he's just doing what he does best. Great.
Let's talk credits, holy shit moments, because this starts turning into a comment. You want to do it now?
Well, we can talk about that now. Yeah, absolutely. Because
Alfred Molina.
I had no idea. Did you?
No.
What? I had no idea what's going on. First of all, someone who's tied in like we are, I read all the scoops for the most part, and I talk about scoops and everything else, and I didn't even. I heard the character talk. I did not recognize him. And at the end, I was like, wait, did that just say Alfred Molina? Yes, it did. Alfred Molina.
And again, that was a great comedy moment because he was even saying to Johnny, he's like, you're the best captain we've ever had. You know, Captain Bruce got nothing on you.
Right.
But I'm still going to have to turn you in.
I went back because I got to. One of the good things about getting to do this show a couple of days after these shows, I actually did definitely get to watch it again. Actually got to watch it. My son didn't get to watch it the first time, so we watched it again. I'm like, I knew what was going to happen this time. Like I knew who was in it, so I went like, oh, let me take a listen to this character and like let me see if I could find it. And I still couldn't really. I kind of like if I listen closely, I go, okay, I see it, but I wouldn't recognize it any other way. Playing Benjar Pranik, of course, the pirate who was a once member of, which is a member of Captain Silvo's crew, and is like trying to grease him up to be able to turn him in and get his money probably from Brutus or whatever. But it's a great moment. It's a wonderful moment, and it definitely dropped my like. I love the fact that we get talent attached to Star Wars, and like it feels like this is a case of Alfred Molina liking Star Wars. I mean, like, I'll do anything you want. Just throw me in there. Oh, yeah, you can do a voice of a show. Sure. I mean, that's kind of cool to me.
It's probably why they were filming Spider-Man, right? John Watts probably said, hey, I've got a thing that I can't tell you what it is, but just it's a big thing. Give me a yes or no if you want it.
Yeah. Absolutely, it could be something completely just like that. And like people like, and this reminds me of the days like Daniel Craig playing a stormtrooper in The Force Awakens. It's like
Prince Harry and Prince William showing up as stormtroopers.
Absolutely, let's just do something. I was like, I'll do a voice. That's what I do. I'll do a voice for somebody. I don't do.
Who's the one you want? Let's go on a quick tangent for a second. Oh. Who's the one that you would be like, if you saw them in the credits, you'd be like, oh my god.
Well, it'd be Ed Harris.
Other than Ed Harris.
I like what Ed Harris actually in the show as an Imperial or something like that potentially. Oh god, that's a great question. What do you have anybody in mind? Let me think about
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman. That'd be a lot of fun.
Gary Oldman as an Imperial would be sweet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But he would that'd be someone I'd want like fully on in there. You know what I mean? Like as a full on character. Especially as someone who can disappear into roles like he can. Like he'd be a great alien also because he could disappear into those roles very easily. God, who else would I want? Something like that. I mean, someone like I want to find someone who
it's gonna be someone that you're like, really?
Really? But then also like it doesn't take away from it. Like I don't want to be able to recognize. Like you somebody comes in like I don't know, like Jim Carrey comes in like, oh, I know that voice, I know who that is, kind of thing. Right? Wow. So something that like a little different. They're like, oh, that was cool. I'll have to think about that and get back to you.
Yeah. Get back to you.
Let's move on. I'll get back to you for sure. All right, next up, put that in your holocron and snoke it. This is where we explore more lore. We take something from the episode and go, I want to know more about this. I want to figure out what's going on and whether it's like actually an important piece of the plot or it's something that's absolutely not an important piece of the story, but you still want to explore maybe like a comic or a book or something like that. And I had two I kind of was releving between, but I'm going to let you go first because this is your turn.
I want to know what prince that droid was talking about.
Good call. That's a good call. Absolutely. That's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. Not important to the story at all, but man, you're like, let me hear more about that.
Because, hey, they're talking about Old Republic.
Right.
Shizo?
Oh, could be. Could be. It could be a lot of possibilities.
I'm not saying Prince Shizo's going to show up in this show. I'm just saying. If Hondo Watch continues to fail, we may have to switch to Shizo Watch.
I love it. I love it for sure. For me, it's a more basic one, but again, it's not important to the show. But I feel like I'd love to get a comic book for her now. I want to get more from Kim. Kim, basically, who is reminded me a lot of the Dark Crystal character, Algra.
Yeah,
really reminded me of that, or either
I
that
didn't think that till you just said it.
No, that's good. That's what I thought right away. This is Dark Crystal right here. That or like
even the room that like moves.
Right, the observatory, which also kind of reminded me a little bit of like the mini characters that were in Neverending Story. Also, I can't remember their names off the top of my head. And Treyu gets to when they're there as well. Right, exactly. I love, but Kim has all these maps, all these things. She's obviously works in the underworld. She works at Crimson Jack, or Silvo, or Jod, whatever you want to call them. And there's some history there. So but she actually is working on the side of the law too. She's enough panache where she can call in the New Republic to try to come get so where is she? What is she like? I want to know more about her standing and her history. How old is she? Has she lived for a long, long time at this point? And it seems like there's a lot you could do with this character. And I really hope, I really, really, really hope that at least there's a character who gets more play throughout the canon. I like these characters getting introduced. It feels like a lot I always feel like with so many projects coming around, sometimes we would introduce these characters and we're never going to hear from them again. Whereas before, back in the day, we'd get a new character and be like, oh, but they're definitely going to get a comic book, or they're definitely going to appear in a book later on, kind of thing. Kim feels like that's what it would have been a long time ago. And I hope we get back to that, where we get to introduce these very vibrant, colorful characters and go, oh, great, let's get more from them.
Well, they're going to be back in this show because they dropped the line of, if you need me, call me.
It could be. It absolutely could be. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Especially as it continues, but yeah, it's definitely one I want to explore a little bit more from. But I also want to explore some other stuff, but we'll get to that when we get to more of the Adventure of the Week action. All right, let's move on to our next segment. Seen a lot of action, the action bit sequences from the David Lowery directed episode. Second episode in a row, David Lowery directed, by the way. So again, wonderful job by Lowery. Some great moments in there. We'll talk about that.
Lowery.
But what was my favorite action bit of the week for me? It's got to be the fuel line whippage. Like when he finally break free from the fuel line by going to hyperspace, and you think that's going to be it, right? You think okay, that's the end of the scene. Boom, they get away. The gun misses, and you might see Bruce go, "Oh, nuts!" But we don't. They actually go on to have the fuel line go back, and it causes havoc. Great visuals, great effects. It's oh shit, what's going on? You even have the big crane type thing drop down right in front of Bruce, who stands there just watching it go down.
Great comedy moment.
Yes, absolutely. It's
Silvo. I would have gone away with it if it wasn't for those meddling kids.
Exactly, Scooby-Doo type situation there. A lot of great little action beats, but that was the one that I was surprised at. I thought it was done. Go to hyperspace. That's usually the end of the scene. All right, we're gonna move on to the next thing. No, we get to see a little bit of the aftermath, which is nice. What about you? What was your favorite action bit?
The unbridled joy of Wim getting in the gunner's seat on the ship. It took me back to the day that, shout out to our friend Zach from the Multiverse, friend of the show, been a guest on the show before. That when we flew the Falcon together, there was a look just before we went into hyperspace. There's a look that me and him gave each other because we were like, who's going to do it, you or me? I put my hand on the lever. He put his hand on top of mine, and we both did it together. And there was just that look of pure childhood joy of getting behind that gun and being like, oh, baby. Here we go. Yeah. I've waited for this my entire life. Since I was a little kid, I've waited to do this. And I love the moment where he hits the X-Wing and he's just like, I hit it. And I remember just that was my shot.
That same trip that you did that, I was actually doing it as well. I went a different time than you did. And I remember going to the Falcon ride, the Millennium Falcon ride. And I I was like a selfish 40 whatever year old man. I was punching that fucking button. I don't know what I'm like. Luckily, I was with people who were like who understood my love. Like,
yeah, we had someone on our crew on that trip who was adamant they were going to fly the Falcon, even though they were nowhere near as big of a Star Wars fan as me and Zach. And both me and Zach were just like, look, if you try and reach for those pilot chairs, we will kill you.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, but luckily I was with a group that like I was definitively like the biggest fan of the group. They're like you're going. There's a video of that somewhere on the interwebs of me looking at the Falcon.
That video will go down as the stuff of legend, like forever. I'm surprised that's not in the intro to this show.
I should actually put it there. The great Nerd Chronic who did the edit, added the Star Wars music, even made it even better.
The Nerd Chronic cut, the Snokes cut. That's my like. That's my 1 and 2 of Star Wars cuts.
Absolutely.
The Nerd Chronic cut and the Smets cut.
Nice, absolutely. But I did going back to your moment specifically. I did like that moment as well. I think that the difference between them, like Fern was all like ready to like throw hands, like I'm the captain. What are you doing? Giving orders? And all of a sudden the guns came down. She kind of was like, okay, I'll do that. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then Wim had that. Wim, who I gotta say, I love the character, but the first episodes he definitely was a little bit of an asshole. A little bit like he kind of like he's so impulsive. Kind of like, dude, stop touching buttons. Stop it. But like he really endeared himself even more to me this week because he's just a kid. He just wants to believe. Like his complete denial that Jod is anything but a Jedi. Like it could be annoying, or it could be kind of like, kid, come on, kid, don't be this stupid. Especially because Fern is out there telling you, like, there's no way. But yet, all you do is like, this is a kid who is a dreamer. He just wants to believe, and it's going to get him into trouble. You kind of feel for him, and for that moment when he gets the guns come down, and his face like just lights up, and you're like, Star Wars right there. Like, we all wanted that when we were that age. We saw Star Wars. I want to be in the X-wing. I want to be in the gutter seat or whatever. Yeah. Like,
did you ever play the arcade game? It's not like the arcade game now, where you're just sitting there. It was kind of almost like a flight simulator.
Yeah.
Where you actually sat in the X-wing and you played the 3 missions of New Hope, Empire, and Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
That was me as a little kid seeing that arcade game, and I was like, "Oh my god, I get to fly an X-wing."
Right, exactly. So good.
I did want to give a shout out to another little moment. It was the moment where they're escaping from the prison, and Wim is just like, "Oh, he's a Jedi. He's a keeper of the peace, the defender of the galaxy." And Jill just goes in and knocks the dude out, and just comes back, and he's just like, "Okay, we're good. Let's go." Like it's a lot of comedic action in this show, and I really like that.
And to be honest, that's always been the crux of Star Wars. I mean, there's always been kind of those humorous moments in there. It's like, can't get out that way. Like it's like little bits and pieces of that throughout, and that makes it kind of that fun. It's fun, swaggering adventure, and that's what I love about it, for sure. All right, let's move into the next moment, which is Laugh It Up, Fuzzball, our favorite comic moment of the week. And I had a couple of them this week. But go with yours first. What was your favorite comic moment of the week?
There was a moment that had me pausing. I had to pause this episode because I was laughing so hard. What has now been dubbed the Neil Helm scream.
The Neil Helm scream. Oh my god. Oh my god.
The scream he lets out when he's flying the ship. I had to pause it to stop laughing. I was crying from laughing so hard. It is, I forget the kid's name. Whoever it is, he's a superstar in the making. I really hope that was literally him in the voiceover booth screaming like that.
I wouldn't be surprised. Let's be honest.
It's hilarious.
He is
every time.
And he is you are right. He is a superstar in the making.
He really is.
I do love that kid. I love that kid a lot. As for me, I'm going to go with my favorite comedic moment is another Smee moment, which I've already talked about, a bunch of Smee moments. But they challenge the kid, and the kid's like, the moment you mentioned before, KB kind of stops from going on the ship. Got the X-Wings coming to try to take them out, and the kids aren't dealing with his guff anymore. They're like, you're going to tell us something, or else we're not letting you on board. And they said basically something like, we'll take you apart. And you just shine up, the camera switches up, and you see Smee in the background as being the intimidating force, and he just lights the blowtorch. And John looks at him and he's like, oh, Smee is like the great moments of comic relief in there. Just does it exactly perfectly.
Like the moment where he's like hunched over and he's talking to Judd, and they have like the face off with each other, and suddenly he just like transforms and like goes up, and you see Judd just like, oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. The blowtorch moment to me actually reminded me like of the intimidating version of BB-8 doing the thumbs up. That's the more intimidating version of that. Perfectly done. Well done.
I use the GIF of that at least twice a week.
Oh, absolutely. I still love it. It's one of my favorite bits of The Force Awakens for sure. That's kind of humor that's great in Star Wars, for example. So, all right, let's get up to our next segment there, Adventure of the Week. This is where we get to talk about pretty much everything else that goes on and everything else that we didn't really mention for the most part before we wrap things up with the ratings and future visions potentially. But so let's go through some of the stuff we didn't talk about, for example, that didn't get to hit into any of our segments. Let's talk about specifically important to me the beginning of the show. We had our one little drop back in on Aden. It's the parents in this place. They're trying to figure out what's going on. And we get a lot of information in a small amount of time. And this episode is all about basically revealing Aden and the significance behind it, as it were. And it starts off, we have the parents and the security droids. The parents like, oh my God. And we have the undersecretary, Farah, who is Fern's mom, is very clear. Like, she's obviously so involved, and she's like, don't worry, security droid's going to get her. We'll be all good. She's like convincing herself. Whereas Wendell, Wim's father, is kind of like, I don't know. What's going on? And we get some great moments with dynamic between them. But the most important things when the droid comes back and says, your kids got into a ship and left the barrier. I was like, all freaking out. Wendell asking, are they going to contact the Republic for help? Once again, not the New Republic, the Republic. I mentioned that a few times. Like they were very specific. They never said New Republic. And the droid says, no, they can't. The supervisor can't risk contacting the Republic, which makes it seem more and more like, okay, so these guys are not in. This is something happening here that we don't know about. The supervisor is very much in control, and that's when even the undersecretary was like, "Oh my God! Well, we're going to request an audience with the supervisor. We're going to make this right." But more importantly than anything else, obviously the kids are upset. We get this name drop and this reference drop of possibly important information about KB having some kind of medical issue. Parents are very worried about this medical issue, which I'm assuming has something to do with her cybernetic enhancements and things of that nature. That's probably something to do with it. But it's a very important small sequence. And I think it's just right and done. Like we could have gotten like a bunch of different scenes going back and forth, but I think that would have cut up the pacing. I think pacing wise, you hit and run, touch it with these characters, drop a little more information, like mysterious information, and then get out. I like the very beginning part though. What do you think?
There is a lot of sinister undertone to this because they're saying that the supervisor can't contact them. It's illegal to go beyond the barricade. And then there was a moment that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about. That I haven't seen a lot of people pick up on this. Was like, there's a moment where the Galactic Civil War gets mentioned, and the kids say, "What war?"
Oh yeah, well, when they're talking to Kim and Fern, KB actually says, "Well, what plans do you know about? Well, you know about Coruscant and Alderaan,
right?"
And like Alderaan, and you haven't heard the war. What war? Yeah, there's something.
I'm going to save it for Force Vision.
Okay.
I think I know what's going on. I don't think you're going to like it because it references a movie I know you hate.
Oh, okay, interesting. Intrigued.
But yeah, I found that really interesting that like they're not doing anything to go and save the kids because like what is so important on that planet that they're protecting?
Right.
They're willing to be like F them kids.
Yeah. That's a great question. We obviously learned a lot more as we go through this episode. We can talk about the rest of it now, most of it if you want now, because talk about that's a very specific thing that keeps getting like dropped throughout the episode, more and more information. And the show is doing a wonderful job at dropping information because I feel like they're not giving us. Let me come back one more thing about overall the show. What it has done has been wonderfully done as far as they're giving us mysteries, but they're also giving us answers. It's not like a long term, like we're going to drop this mystery and we're going to linger on it for episodes and episodes until the end. No, they give us answers, but the answers do lead to more questions. And it's just like, we'll drop information. So I feel like we're getting somewhere, which is always good, because when it starts lingering too much, sometimes kind of like, all right, can you shut it off the pot? Let's figure out something here. Well, we're getting a little piece of information. And in this case, it feels like, okay, we learned that Aden is one of, I believe it was 9 planets that were hidden from everybody.
The crown jewels of the old
Republic. Hidden from everybody. They were all destroyed except for Aden, supposedly. Of course, again, you never know what this information is. Maybe not. Maybe they're not all destroyed, but like as far as we know, the information that Kim knows is that they were all destroyed except for Aden. We get the name drop of Alderaan and Coruscant. The kid had no idea about the war, but like it almost seems like, okay, so we know this planet has been cut off. We know this now. They can't get out. The galaxy as a whole can't get in. They don't know about each other for the most part, but besides rumors and conjecture, etc. I think the next bit of information that drops is, okay, how long has it been now? Because it's the crown jewel of the old Republic, which is like that. The terminology is something I think is very important. And something we haven't really talked about much because it has never really come up. But we have the designations of the Old Republic, the High Republic, the Republic, and then the New Republic. And like we've always not name dropped, and like they specifically, like I said before, never said anything about like the old other parents just saying Republic. But it almost feels like they're leading you to believe like it might be just before. Like they didn't know about Palpatine's rise. They didn't know about the Galactic Civil War. Maybe that's how old they are. But I almost feel like it might even be older. Like it might even be from the old Republic at that point. And that's where the mystery kind of continues. Exactly how much do you know and how much do you not know at this point? I love how they're dropping it.
They did it a really good way as well, because they did it as a title card.
Yeah.
And that's the way I think they're doing it, to like separate and like almost distract us from what's going on there, because it's like they play it before, then we get the Skeleton Crew title card.
Right.
And then we're like, okay, now the episode's starting. We're getting into the wonder, we're getting into the adventure.
Right.
And it's almost like that kind of like drifts away from your mind a little bit.
Right.
And it's not until like people like you and me who are having a sit down dissection and discussion of it that we're like, that was kind of weird, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Just enough to make you go, I want to know more. I want to see further. Tell me more about this stuff. It's like the central, I think, is one of the central mysteries of the show. Here we are, 3 episodes in out of 8, and we are getting answers, but also, as I said, asking more questions, which is good. I think it's a perfect way to do it. And I feel like you said that best too. We get that before the title card. We hit that moment, and it's like we almost forget about it. Almost, not really, but like you don't deal with the rest of the episode. It's like, okay, we had a moment, let's move on to the next bit, and then we'll have to get back to it later on. So it's like they're giving us information here, and that's enough, and we're going to keep going with it further. So there's small moments, but I think they're important moments. And I can't wait to see what this goes from there. So good. I think it's a great way to do it. Spot on storytelling as far as I'm concerned doing it. Just enough to keep you intrigued and want to know more. So all right, after the title card, we return to our pirate stronghold, and we get the adventure of the escape with Jude and the kids. And I love the adventure bits. We get right away. We had like it built up to the Force using of the key in the last episode, and then right away in this episode, a second and a half in, he's using the Force again, knocking the sound like the old Obi-Wan on the Death Star. Throw a call back there, knocking the sound later, making the guards look at him running away. And then getting by. And it's like, okay, we're going right into it. We're doing more with it. Cool. All right. And I will say this is going to go into something, maybe my Force vision potentially eventually, but I love what they did here. This is exactly what I was just talking about. I feel like in a different show, in a differently written show, and a potentially not as well written show, Jod's history would be the central mystery.
Did he survive Order 66? No one cares.
It'll be like the whole thing. Is he a Jedi or is he not? Is he? And that would be the lingering bit. And instead of letting that linger, they kind of ripped the Band-Aid right off. And like by the end of the episode, they're saying he's not. They're like, Fern is not a fool. Fern and KB are not a fool. Wim wants to believe. Neil's going to go along with Wim for the most part. He's ride or die there. Neil's Wim is not ride or die. And they have arguments on both sides that make sense. On each side, like their arguments on both sides are very, they're both believable, understandable. Exactly. The fact that Fern is so gung ho, like not believing his shit, like, because you're a Jedi, right? Come on, you said you're a Jedi, right? And of course, Jude being like, of course, I'll go. Of course,
yes. Yeah.
Like never saying he's a Jedi, but like kind of going,
you stay here where it's safe,
right? And everything else, I just don't leave. Just don't leave me. I love the fact that they're doing that because again, it's like answering questions but they're still like by the end of the episode, they go, okay, so he is what he is. He's a swindler, he's a con, he's a pirate. He's trying to pull it over on these kids a little bit. At least we know that, but we don't know his history. There's still a mystery there as to how far this goes and more details on. Well, he's not this. He's not that. What is he necessarily at this point? And I think it's a well done thing to do. They tackle it right away. They tackle that mystery and go, all right, boom, or give you some answers. Just not all of them yet. And it's well done. Again, well done storytelling that way.
No, I agree.
So okay, so you have the moments where they're going through the thing, they're going through the stronghold, they're getting to the ship. We have some humorous moments like where he talks about the ship. He sees the ship for the first time. He's like, not that, right?
Yeah. Ooh. You can almost like see because they're talking about how bad it smells, but you can like almost like you can like see the stench like coming off.
It's like Big Fan, like Big Fan in Peanuts and the Charlie Brown character. That's what it feels like, right? It's then they get on board, they try to get off, got to get off the stronghold, and the kids aren't going to leave the droid behind. And he's like, of course, he's like, oh God, I got to do this. And the thing is, did he have to go back for the droid? Did he have to? He didn't have to.
The Jedi didn't really care about droids. Really, it was only Anakin that was the only one that did.
I just watched the Clone Wars episodes where Obi-Wan was telling Anakin to forget R2. R2 is lost, and he's like, he's just a droid. They're a dime a dozen kind of thing. So it makes sense that way. And he could have overpowered the kids and been like, we don't need the droid. I'm just going to go. And they've dealt with it later on. He could have done that. But he does go for the droid. I think that's because that is one of those moments that shows he does have a little bit of a heart in there. He's like, all right, fine, make it easier. Like on the surface, it's like, I got to make it easier. The kids aren't going to leave without him. I got to do this. But at the same time, he's kind of like, kids love the droid. We'll get the freaking droid. Yeah.
I also think like he's also like trying to play up to the part as well. I don't think he did. I don't think he knows that the Jedi didn't care about droids.
Right. Maybe.
So I feel like he was a bit of it was like, shit, I've been caught in the act here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Jedi.
fine. I'll go get the droid because he's got all the platitudes down. It's like the Force provided.
Right.
Like he's got all the platitudes. He's got all the words down. He's got all the gear, but no idea.
Right. I love the fact he calls Fern out on it. Fern's like, Jedi never leave a man behind. He's like, Jedi don't say that. Jedi's not something Jedi say. You don't know anything either, do you? He's like, I know my own. You don't know anything either. You're trying to bullshit because she is a little of the group. She's the con man of the group. She's the one who would definitely get into that kind of lifestyle. So
what's the line from Role Models? You can't BS and BS.
Yeah, BS and BS. Exactly. That's what it is. He's like, I got you. I know where you're coming from. I got you. But he knows if he has convinced the other three, he gets Wim on his side. He's got Wim already. He's got Neil. KB, he can kind of feel like he can talk to, or at least enough to not control, but like let her stay on the side. Whereas Fern, he's got to like kind of dazzle a little bit. He's got to kind of like pull over her eyes. So we have him go, and the kids are talking about trying to figure out what's going on. And of course, we turn back, and he's like, "Look!" And there's good old Jod flying the shuttle, evading fire, trying to get through. I love that return back. But before I get there, we should talk about the moment where he actually does get Smee back. Beautiful moment. turning on droids left and right. We get the Prince droid, and we get the battle droid, which I am here for. I guess I'm a sucker for the Clone Wars era. I'm a sucker for that the animated series and everything else. So getting to see a battle droid in this era, it just makes me smile. It's like that's the insane Ted cameos that I think we get, kind of moments like that. It's like
anytime we get Matt Wood doing battle droid humor,
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Matthew Wood, what a great addition to Lucasfilm he has been ever from back in the day. Great moment. So yeah, that was a good moment. That's where we meet Ben Jar and Alfred Molina's character, and he has to run away. That's what caused the alarm. He goes back. He's shooting his way through. We get back on the ship, and there he is. He's going through. We get the escape we talked about with the fuel line and everything else. They get into space, and we go to the planet where Kim is, where his friend is with that knows star maps and things like that. And we get the most Spielbergian shot of the entire series of the episode.
The ET shot?
The ET shot. Tyler actually turned to me and goes, so all they need are bikes right now, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much all they need are bicycles. The big moon shot with them walking. I got to say, visually this show, which reportedly used a lot of the volume, looks awesome. I feel like the volume was so new in Mandalorian. I think it's had some growing pains here and there, or maybe they've had to rush some things. They didn't quite get into it. They have learned a lot, and this felt genuinely there. Like sometimes you can tell when it's a volume shot and sometimes not. But this didn't. You could almost never. I couldn't tell what was volume and what wasn't. This. It was just really well done. I thought that was like that shot right there. But most, just almost definitely a volume shot. But it looked beautiful, and it looked.
See what happens when you don't rush things. When you don't rush things to get things out.
You know, I didn't get to listen to the whole episode yet, but I listened to the Force Center a little bit. And welcome back to Joseph Scrimshaw, of course, for making his film. And he got to be on there. I only listened to the first 15, 20 minutes because I had to get home and do stuff. But he mentioned it. True, this show was supposed to come out a year ago. It was about a year ago, and they got pushed back for a year. And that, not that Disney put more money into to reshoot or add things to it, but when you have the time, you can kind of go, well, let's do another pass on this. Let's see if we can maybe tweak some things and just get that extra time to kind of not lazily, but to slowly go, okay, we could probably do this better. Whereas you're right before the deadline, kind of this looks good. Yeah, you know what? Maybe but it's passable. We can go. It can go out. I think whereas they had the time to do it, and this is what happens when you get that kind of free moment to do stuff. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah, just give things time.
Absolutely. So, all right, we get through. Obviously, come back. They make it back to the ship. The X-wings come back, and I for sure was thinking we are going to see Captain Teva because he's the only one who seems to be patrolling in the New Republic. It seems like he's the only guy who patrols the entire galaxy. But we did not get him.
I mean, you work dispatch with law enforcement. You probably be on. He would probably just be on call all the time, and you'd be like, bro, do you ever go home? Do you ever do you have a family to go home to?
OT. I got OT. I got a lot of OT. It's all.
I think he just loves his job.
I think so too. I think what he loves doing, but we did not get Sam. We got the other two. Kent was the name of the guy, but that was a great dogfight. It was a great moment of fighting. It was exactly what you want. You mentioned your favorite parts from the weapons there. Wim and Fern's joy at being able to get involved in this, and I love it when Wim gets a shot off or a blast hits one of the X-wings, and was yeah, and Fern's that was my shot.
I did see someone say oh, why didn't the X-wings just shoot it out of the sky? It's because they knew that there were kids on board.
Yeah, I know. And he actually says that in the episode.
Yeah,
I'm back when Kim's you got let them get away. It's it was too dangerous. There were kids on board. I couldn't shoot them down.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on there. Let's actually talk about the Kim section. What did you like? What did you think about the Kim section?
Oh, just the character design. I had a similar kind of reaction to when I saw Yoda for the first time. When I saw Kim, I was like, cool. It's just because you see her talons from the first shot.
Right.
But then you see her come swooping in and just land right in front of you. I was like, holy shit, that's an owl. That's a talking owl.
Absolutely.
It's not like an alien. It was just I'm looking at a talking owl.
And they added the most things to it, the squawks and stuff that she added to her, like it wasn't overdone. Like that could get annoying if you do too much of that kind of stuff, to be honest with you. But it wasn't. It was just like every once in a while something got added when she got excited about something, she squawked into it. Great performance. I forget the actress's name. She's in a bunch of stuff recently. God, wait, let me see that. I should have known this. I should have done this work before. This is my great content here. I looked up the voice actress for Kim. Her name is Alia Shawkat.
Right now.
Alia Shawkat, of course. Phenomenal voice actors in a bunch of stuff recently to go see her. So I was happy to get that kind of not cameo, but like that kind of getting talent involved in the show even for smaller roles. Hopefully, like you said, hopefully we get to see her back and get to see her more of her because
she's in Arrested Development.
Yes, she is.
Okay.
She is.
That'd be where I recognize her from.
Yeah, from a lot of different things as well. She's been in a bunch of, and she's
Green Room. I liked Green Room.
She's becoming more and more like involved with things, and she got involved. And she's like, she was also in a couple of Veronica Mars. She was in somebody. She does Robot Chicken voices. Of course, she's also the Old Man, which is John Watts. This is probably where the connection came from with John Watts and everything else. Is a lot of good things she's doing. And she's going to be in Severance season 2, which I think is another phenomenal show. So, yeah, great character there, great character actor there. So, perfect. And she does a great job in this role too. I like Kim. Kim's a.
What did you think of the cast when you first saw it?
Oh, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I guess I'm like, who's this going to be? Once I got past the fact that I could sound a little like Maz on the squawker thing there. I was like, okay, but it's not. And then you saw it, like, oh my god, it's like exactly what you don't expect Yoda to be. It's like that kind of similar throwback to like you expect Yoda to be like a warrior. You expected this person to be kind of like you don't expect it to be a 3-foot tall owl. But that's exactly the joy and adventure of Star Wars brings, though, isn't it? That's what we do. So yeah, I love it.
I saw a lot of people thinking, "Oh my god, was that Morai?" I'm like, no, that was not Morai.
No.
It's way cooler than Morai.
Morai doesn't talk. Let's be honest with this. But yeah. So we get back. They get to they have the little tea where they kind of call a spade. Like, okay, we're now getting on to tell you. We have that great moment from Jude. Where I mentioned it before, that he came clean, kind of. I'm sure there's still a lot more back there. That
episode 7 is apparently when we find out.
Yes, okay, that's what I've heard too.
Because Jude Law can't keep his mouth shut.
No, he can't. But in the best way possible, I think he's actually the things that he has leaked have been good leaks. Not like they've given us a lot of information, but just kind of like showcasing a little bit, like, oh, look to look forward to here and everything else. So they get away from the X-Wings and dog fight, and they zip into space. We end up them supposedly having the coordinates to Ad-Aden, and they're flying to Ad-Aden. So I can't it almost feels like unless the ship blows up somewhere during hyperspace, which is a possibility, we're almost going to get to Ad-Aden next week with episode 4. It almost feels early, almost.
Which I did say last week. I don't think it's going to be long before we're back there.
Yeah, you did say that. That's true. I still thought it was going to be later on. There's potential that the coordinates are wrong and that it leads them to like a destroyed planet or something like that, and it's to take one of the other jewels of the Old Republic or something to that effect.
We've still got some of the footage from the trailer where they climbing over like what looks like a quarry almost. Yeah. It's like kind of destroyed. So you might be onto something there.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised. At all. And they find something that leads them to Ad-Aden from there, kind of thing, potentially. We didn't mention the last thing we should talk about Kim's stuff. Like, it was interesting hearing them get to where they got. Kim comes across with the old crown jewels of the Old Republic. They went from there to the nebular gases, which cut down to 10,000 worlds instead of like a billion worlds, whatever. And then you get those symbols that were on Fern's backpack there. And I forget what she said. It was somewhere like paranormal, proto. I don't know, something like different kind of numericals that were in the Old Republic and different kind of symbols, and trying to find it. But she found it pretty relatively quickly, which is impressive. Yeah, I did love that moment. I think it was great lore drop moments. Great lore build.
It's also like with the nebula, right? Because they mentioned that it's a nebula. Like when I first saw it, I thought, oh, that's a big cloud of gas.
Right.
But it's a nebula, which also adds to the no one's going to want to fly through it.
Right. Absolutely.
Because you end up getting shish kebab.
You do. So, all right. Then that is pretty much that wraps up the episode of the adventure and everything else. So let's get into our ratings, the parsecs out of 11. We always rank things on a scale of 1 to 11 here on PLD Projects. We always turn it up to 11 here on PLD Projects. Scale of 1 to 11, Matty, where do you rate this episode?
I'm going to continue the bit and give it a 9.
Give it a 9. Okay. Not a 7?
No.
That's the IGN bit.
The IGN bit.
Yep. The IGN bit making it 7. I'm going to give it a 9.5. I think, honestly, this is my favorite of the 3 episodes so far. I think it, which is impressive because, you kind of sometimes get those drops, first episodes are great. And then it kind of falls back. All right, next one's kind of mediocre. This one stayed at that level, if not went beyond, because you got more Jude Law. And Jude Law is just, he's winning.
If I wasn't doing a bit, I would give this an 11. Do you know why I would give this an 11?
What's that?
We got pirate Jawas. I have a Jawa tattoo. I
do know this. You are the man of the Jawas.
I just # justice for Jawas.
We're to get that. Who's the one that's an Obi-Wan?
Tika.
Yeah.
Tika?
Yeah, we're gonna get Tika in the show somewhere.
Oh my god, Tika Watch.
Tika Watch continues.
Antika Roadshow.
Yeah, there you go. Antika Roadshow. We have Tika and Tika together.
Oh my god.
I love it so much. All right, I give it a 9.5 for me, man. It's just right on there. It's continuing along, and I love where we're going. I can't wait to see what we got next. I think it's funny because the overall, I want to say, lack of overall stakes as far as the universe goes.
I kind of like it.
I do too. I didn't think I would because I'm such a connectivity person. I'm the guy who says I can't get enough Skywalker stuff. I love the Skywalker stuff, and I love getting more connections to. I love the side branch from those, seeing what's happening because I love the greatest story of the Star Wars. That's the most important story of Star Wars is the Skywalker saga. So I was like, okay, well, I'll have fun with this and everything else, but there's no real galaxy stakes. But the stakes are there for the story itself, and that's enough. That's enough.
It's almost like the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's more like a local hero's tale.
And considering John watched the Homecoming Spider-Man, makes sense as well. Not to say it doesn't if they happen to end up where Ahsoka is, that, it wouldn't be a cool addition to the storyline. Absolutely, it could be, but we don't need it. We don't need it at all. But yeah, 9.5 for sure. Okay, next up, last bit of the episode itself about regarding Skeleton Crew before we get into our news of the day, of the week, I should say. Force Vision. This is where we take something from the episode and we continue it on and make predictions about what's going to happen in the future, whether it be in this episode, next, or this series, or beyond in the lore. Go ahead, Matty. You can tell me your Force Vision first.
So let's go back to the first bit of this episode, right? They're saying how the supervisor can't contact the Republic.
Right.
We know that the people of this community, this planet, have no idea about the Galactic Civil War. No idea. So it's got to have been there a while. It's got to have been there a long time.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, people watching, about one of PLD's all-time favorite movies. Equilibrium.
Oh, God.
Where the father, in this case the supervisor, has been dead the entire time.
That's the worst part about this movie.
Hear me out.
Yeah.
What if the reason, because Fern's mom asks for an audience with the supervisor, and the droid tells her no.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What if this civilization, this planet, is so tied to the Old Republic that the supervisor has been dead this whole time?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they've just been left there. And no one knows about this planet.
I agree.
Not even Palpatine knew about it. Because the supervisor, whoever it was, maybe it was a Jedi protecting the planet, they've been gone.
Yeah.
And all it's been is just been these droids somehow, I don't know how, maybe it's the people that live there keeping the droids together and everything. Like, and that would explain the like almost retro look of everything.
Yeah. Well, no, I let me add on to you. I think
because nothing would have been updated because the supervisor isn't pulling stuff in from the Republic because there is no supervisor.
I think you're onto something on that as well. I think supervisor's been dead because we don't have a name for him and everything else. It's just of the supervisor. And quite frankly, maybe the droids are just following commands, following the last commands of like the last command was keep this status quo and take control of the people. They can't control themselves, so control them like I would control them, and go from there. That's what I think.
Spoiler alert for Equilibrium. Like I said, we get there and Christian Bale's character, he asked for an audience with this big benevolent character called the Father. We get there, find out, much to PLD's chagrin, and we have to deal with Agnes McFadden being the big bad. I think the supervisor's been. I don't think there is this. I think there was a supervisor, but I think
you gave me Sean Pertwee as a possibility. You gave me Pertwee as a possibility, and he was great. I was looking forward to meeting Pertwee. He would give us some charisma to the show. He would have given a movie. He would have given something to the. And instead, we get this schmuck who was a shit the whole time. I didn't want him. I was looking forward to getting past him. It was like it's like going to a boss in Super Mario, and like you want to beat the boss to get to the super boss, and you learn that no, you just got to beat the regular old boss again. What?
I do love Luigi. Luigi's my favorite character now.
I've always loved Luigi. But yes, I get what you're saying. As far as Skeleton Crew goes, I get what you're saying. I'd be okay here if we don't have a shit boss to contend with. That's the reason why it's okay. For sure.
The droids have just been running the show by themselves the entire time.
Absolutely. All right, for me now, my Force vision, it's about Jod. And I kind of mentioned what I mentioned, but kind of brings up what I mentioned before, right? We had the idea that Jod, is he a Jedi or is he not? And then he kind of ripped the Band-Aid off. Is he not? Is he or is he not? I had a feeling what we're going to get, and this is my prediction for the series. And I think this is not exactly it's not like a ingenious moment. I'm sure some people have thought of it. But I think we're going to get Jod is not a Jedi, like we said. I think he might have grown up having connection to the Force, but having nobody to train him or anything like that. So he just uses his gifts that he's discovered for his own ill-begotten game. But I believe that Whim is going to be central to this. Whim's belief in Jod, Whim's belief in Jedi is going to strike that chord in the right way. And so it's going to be basically Jod's not a Jedi.
But he has to show up for Whim.
But he could be. He could do it best. And and even if he's not a Jedi, he'll do something very Jedi-like towards the end. And Whim will be satisfied and happy and everything else. And who knows? Maybe, yeah, exactly. You might become like a Jedi at the end or act like a Jedi at the end and let him believe he's a Jedi and let him, because Star Wars has always been about hope, and you want to have hope alive. And even if it sometimes sometimes the hope is more important than the reality. So even if the hope isn't something that's not actually there, it can make your life better. It can make your life more livable.
He'll do something a Jedi would have done.
Right. He'll show up in something, whatever it is, and he'll get something. He'll have a moment where he'll do something just what as a Jedi would do, and it'll justify women's belief in him the entire time. And it won't be like some case where you find out he is a Jedi or he's got amnesia or nothing like that. He'll actually just make the right choice, kind of like Han coming back in the Battle of Yavin. It's that kind of situation where he makes the right choice and do his best and justify Whim's belief in him. And that's my Force vision. I hope it comes true because I can't wait for it to happen if it does.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really good, heartfelt thing to lead off of in this show.
It feels like it fits. It feels like it fits in the show for sure. So let's see. Anything else? Oh, you know what? We did mention. We kind of touched on it. We should bring it up. Last bit of news before I go. Captain Crimson Jack. If you don't know that,
oh yeah,
that's a great character reference to. If you didn't know it, back in the day, Marvel Comics had the Star Wars line. The first 6 issues of the comic was the adaptation of A New Hope, and they went off on their own thing. And one of them you got, I want to say it was like issue, I don't know, 15, somewhere around there.
17, I think.
Someone, okay, 17 maybe. I don't know exactly where it is. We do get introduced to a smuggler, Han Solo rival, pirate kind of thing, and his name is in fact Crimson Jack.
He also is actually canon.
Yes.
Now through the Halcyon comics.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. I actually forgot about the Halcyon comics. That's true. Absolutely. So John is not that Crimson Jack
that we know of.
That we know of. I don't think he will be. That's true. Because like we could see a time shifting kind of thing, and because yeah, that's absolutely true. He could be. But even if it's not, it's just that great sense of this is that rewarding thing for being a Star Wars fan. John Watts obviously is a big fan and has people working with him. It's a big fan. They know all this stuff, and they're going to give you little bits and pieces of it to kind of celebrate. I love it.
Well, he was pretending to be Captain Jack, like he's pretending to be Captain Silver, like he's pretending to be Jordan and Arwood. Maybe he was pretending to be Crimson Jack.
Who knows? Who knows at this point? All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Skeleton Crew. Let's get into our news bits. A little bit of talk about news-wise. We'll get into it. Let's start off with...
Have you got the big one? The big casting news? Because I know you did a reaction. I haven't been able to give my 2 cents.
We're going to get... That is in our discussion, Perfect. So don't worry about it. Perfect. All right, let's start off. The first one was Entertainment Weekly had this great interview with Jude Law. Talking about Jordan Elwood's motivation and relationship with the Force, and a couple of different quotes that I really liked, and I wanted to expand on a little bit. Entertainment Weekly wasted a little time asking about his background as a Force-sensitive being, and while he doesn't give anything away, he offered a few clues. His quote was, "That doesn't really come out until right near the end when you really get an insight into his backstory and why he may be a Force user and is Force sensitive." And it was a detail that was always there, but John Watts, Christopher Ford, and I really went back and made sure we were all on the same page as to where he was born and what happened. And it's kind of an interesting, but a very revealing page in his past. I would say that he's not someone who's had a childhood. That's someone who... He's someone who's kind of had his childhood snatched away from him. And it's why he looks at these kids with this sort of disdain. They're just small adults. Why don't they understand that they've got to get on and survive? And why are they so inexperienced? He has no real concept of innocence.
I wonder if he's from Alderaan.
I wonder too.
He gets blown up, forced to survive as a child in space.
Mm-hmm. I love the idea that like that showcases his view on the kids. Like he's like, why aren't you getting this? It's like a kid. It's like a kid who grew up in the streets going with the kid who has the rich parents. Like the totally different kind of characters. Like, what's going on here? It's a very cool thing. Also, Jai went on. He said, asked him about his personality, and Jai Law said that I think he says he's a dreamer. He's got big ambitions, maybe not the best of team players because he thinks slightly different to everyone else. And then he got asked about his motivation in the grand scheme of things. Law confirmed that Jod stumbled upon the reveal of that after initially wanting to escape prison. So with that achieved, his main motivation is getting lots of credits now. Initially, it was simply to get out of jail. Right then, it was to get off the planet. And if you've got a spaceship, you can go anywhere if it's fueled and you know how to use it. So for him, it's always the sort of one step at a time. And of course, there's always this hint of these credits, this mysterious place that no one really thinks is real, where they say they're coming from. So just sniffing that out and really finding out what is a plausible line is really what's on his mind at the moment. Makes sense what we're seeing. He's not really all in, but he's like, you know what? I'm going to go along until I feel otherwise.
He even said, right, when we talked about this last week, why would he have waited for the kids to show up? And like we even said, it's just like, because once he gets out the cell, where has he got to go?
Right.
He needs a ship.
And he got it. Exactly. Another great moment here. Jod only reluctantly agreed to go and retrieve Smi in order to placate the kids, and later claims that droids will only let you down, which he did say. So it's pretty clear he's not fond of them. It seems that character detail came from Jude Law himself rather than the writers. He said, "I'm so pleased you picked up on that. There's a lot more of that. I kept sprinkling it in, and they all kept going, 'What are you doing?' I don't know. I just had this idea that something happened in the past, and he just does not trust them." Kind of like Din. And I just like that. I was looking also for a little edge. I was looking for a kind of little, I wouldn't say a catchphrase. I was looking for something I could play throughout. And what's funny about this, of course, is I love droids. So when I was on the set, I was like, wow, there's a scene I have to go and get SM-33. And there's some really old droids in there, and they're brought in from storage. And one of them was a guy in a costume like C-3PO. And for me, it was like insane. It was like being this wonderful garage of my childhood. So I thought
one of those, there wasn't that, I think it was a CZ droid. One of the interrogation droids from Empire Strikes Back. Wasn't that one of the ones that was on there?
Yes. Yeah. I can't remember the whole name. It had a whole thing.
I can't remember the number, but it was the same type of droid.
Type of droid, yes. And he goes, so I just thought this is interesting. Maybe he just has a slight disdain, distrust. And I always love that little detail in those past Star Wars. People have different relationships with droids. Some of them treat them kind of like servants. Some of them are very respectful. Some of them make friends. And I just thought, oh, well, maybe he has a bad moment and just doesn't like them. These are fun details when you have a real bedrock of a character. He was so well realized and written that I came in and lean on that and embellish it with just physicality and ideas. And going back to what I said before about him not really understanding what it is to be parental or a caregiver, to him, it's like, look, there's food. I ate it. I'm not going to make you food, even though you're children and you're hungry. Like, that's a great moment in there. It's like, you think about that.
I completely forgot about that moment. Yeah, because you just like, there's more in the plot.
It's played for humor. But it's like it showcases the character. He's like, I'm not your parent. I'm not your butler. There's food in there if you want it. Go get it.
Yeah.
He goes, and I thought I had an idea. Well, why don't I just come in and just eat everything? And they're all sitting there because they're used to being given food by their parents. So like little ideas like that just grow organically out of good characters that you were handed by the writers. So Jude is basically the writers give you a good character. You got to expand on more. Specifically, one more big quote that he said, a couple more quotes that he said, which I love. I love this entire interview. Mentioned they kind of compared Jude Law to Han Solo a bit. Because I can't tell you what a compliment I take that as. Because this is a 51-year-old man who grew up with Han Solo as his idol. The definite spirit to Han that I loved in those first 3 movies. He was always the kind of cynic, but he was kind of laughing at the world, and yet he ultimately had this good heart, this ability to be heroic and step in at the right time. I don't know that God's all those things, but I love the way Harrison Ford always added that kind of smirk to this universe. Han didn't take the world too seriously, and I really wanted to bring a little bit of that into Jude, but Jude's complicated, so there are other sides too. I would say this. It was such a great concept to me that the kids are the protagonists. So you're seeing the world through their eyes, one of innocence or fear. It was important that Jude have not just sort of heroics, but had humor and a certain courageousness. But it was also then sort of dark. He had to carry a lot to sort of draw the kids' whole wide-eyed wonder. And he also mentioned later on he was excited about what the reaction to his character. Hopefully they would love him. Hopefully they would accept his character. And he knows he has to be very cagey about answering questions because he has to,
terrible eye. Terrible eye.
So that was the interview. You should read it on Entertainment Weekly. It's a wonderful piece. Even though I basically read a lot of the quotes to you, but it's definitely more into his character. And it's awesome hearing Jude Law talk that kind of stuff about the show. So, all right, next up we got the holiday special and Skeleton Crew. Watts decided to recreate the scene and was initially unsure whether Lucasfilm would approve of it, saying, I was worried at some point that we're going to get a call that you can't do that. But everyone was into it. I was really surprised. We shot short a long time ago. We shot a long time ago, and the angles were all wrong. So we went and got the original wardrobe sketches and rebuilt all of the costumes from scratch. We also couldn't find a copy of the written score. So we had to give it to our composer. We then had to transcribe it, figure out what instruments they were playing, and then re-record it. And we also did with the full orchestra. I think the musicians got a kick out of
it. Just put it on Disney Plus.
I don't know if they have it. That's what I'm saying. They don't have all the good remastered all. They don't have
it out there somewhere. Somewhere. George probably has it in a vault.
And he's also got a contract that says you will never put this on anywhere.
Even if that contract runs out, he's not telling them where it is.
Absolutely.
That shit's buried out in the desert somewhere.
I love the fact they were going to go for the whole. They were actually going to put the holiday special in there, but they couldn't because of the worst. And but they don't give up. They didn't give it up. They said, "All right, we'll just recreate it. We'll go back and recreate it."
George probably saw that. I was just like, "For fuck's sake!"
All right, next up, Skeleton Crew creators already have a plan for season 2. We 100% have an idea for a second season and know what we would do. We have a built-in ticking clock of the kids and their age. By the time we would get production going, we know what age they would be. So we would be writing towards that. You'll be growing up with the kids. It would be something like a 3 to 4 year time jump to make sense. We haven't seen the kids in a while, so it just depends on how tall the kids are. We wouldn't do like a Stranger Things thing where we're like, it's the next day, because it won't be. It's built into that. It would be a bigger time jump forward because it does take so long to get things moving. This isn't like it would take place the next day because the kids are going to be older. There's so many repercussions. It's like you want to kind of catch up later on. Great idea. Great concept. I hate the fact that we're waiting so many years between shows because that's just an announcement to me. Now it used to be. But if that's the way of the world, I like they're planning into it that way.
I would love for it, like Neil to be like Finch from American Pie. Or like he starts off and he's like the dork, And then he shows up to the reunion and he's like, yeah, I've got a motorbike and I've been traveling all these places and I've done all this cool stuff. Even though Finch lied through his back teeth, he did, but like Neil being that like the late bloomer that like just became like some stud jock or something like that in high school would be incredible.
Absolutely. A lot of fun there. I hope it happens. Obviously, the whole won't happen will depend on on viewership and on the response and everything else. And might not have got the greatest viewership, but I think it's definitely got some critical response.
Factors outside of our control.
Absolutely. So hopefully they'll see that there's definitely some people generally loving it, and we'll hopefully get more from these characters. I love it. So, all right, next up, real quick, got a few more before we wrap things up. Mangold and Beau Willimon are close to finishing a draft of Dawn of the Jedi, which means they're not as close as I thought they were.
Cool. Keep writing, boys. Take your time.
Yeah,
make it good.
He said he was in an interview talking about A Complete Unknown, which is a Bob Dylan biopic that he recently released.
Which I've heard is great. Apparently Timothy Chalamet knocked it out of the park. That's what I've heard as well.
As he always does, exactly. He said, my partner and I have been writing it. I don't know what's next because we haven't gotten to the end of that process. We're trying to finish a draft. Well, I don't know what that means, but hopefully just keep taking time.
Haven't finished the draft yet. That's what it means.
And as far as like production wise, as far as like how close I mean the draft is, like you're gonna need more of a pass over. Just Lucasfilm has to approve it. Who knows? But they are still working on it. Hopefully it'll be soon. All right, next up, Ahsoka season 2 set to film in the UK next year. Lucasfilm is not currently filming shows in Los Angeles. Interesting bit. For the first time, Lucasfilm has pushed. For the first time since Lucasfilm pushed for creating live-action shows for Disney Plus, there are no shows in production for their Los Angeles sets at this time.
It's weird because don't they get tax breaks in LA?
I think they do, and I don't know. Like, but it seems like Ahsoka is going to use more real-life locations and things of that nature. That's what it kind of feels like, or something. The old school sets. So interesting to see what that means. I don't know necessarily whether. I mean, I'm all for it because I love what the Volume's been doing for Skeleton Crew. But if you give me some more live-action stuff, maybe shake it up a little bit, I'm all for it.
Dave, if you need someone to play the live-action version of The Sun.
Sam Witwer's on call. Let's be honest.
God, Sam does look like him, huh?
He does look a lot like him. I wouldn't be surprised if Sam just jumped right into it. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Oh, don't. All
right, let's go to the news from the other day, which I actually was so weirded out by. I don't know. So strange that I had to create a reaction when you weren't around. To it.
Let's do this.
Christian Harloff on his channel, had an interview. Jeff Snyder was on, and they broke the news that Jeremy Allen White of the Bear fame, Iron Claw fame, and everything else, and you want my initial reaction, it's on this channel, is going to be in The Mandalorian and Grogu, and he's going to voice Road of the Hutt. As we all know, somehow, Stinky has returned. I need your reaction. Go ahead.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I got to shout out our friend Nikki Kumar, who posted this. It's possibly his best work. It's of the chef droid from Book of Boba Fett saying, "Get the fuck off my Expo chef now."
Nice.
Okay. Jeremy Allen White is an incredible character actor. The way he is able to, like, you look at the character of Kami in The Bear,
right?
Very stoic, like a lot of like behavioral challenges, and like he, on paper, you wouldn't think he is a very interesting character,
right?
But then you get the moments like when he goes to the AA meetings, and when he has like the interactions with Richie, and he really fleshes out the character, and you're like, oh my god, what the hell? There's a reason this dude is winning Emmys left and right for this show.
Oh, absolutely.
And the Iron Claw, my god, he made me cry like 4 times.
Absolutely. Love it.
Imagine what he's going to do with Rather
as Stinky. As Stinky the
Hut. If I'm not mistaken, didn't the Huts used to be pretty jacked?
There are some jacked Huts, especially in the comments there. I forget the one that was in, I can't remember the name of it. The one that Luke saw during when he was looking for the lightsaber at one point. I can't remember the name of that Hut there, but he was pretty jacked.
Like maybe Rata saw what happened to his dad with the Jedi, with Boba Fett. Started picking up the weights. It's like I'm not gonna be like my dad. I'm not gonna be a schlub like my dad. I'm gonna get jacked. I'm gonna like.
I gave my initial comment on it on my note, but I will say a little bit. It is a little strange. You have Jeremy Allen White, and you're going to use him in this capacity as a voice instead of being on screen, because I feel like he would do great as a good smuggler or bounty hunter, something on screen. I love having talent in Star Wars, and that's fine. It is a little weird that he's a Hutt though, also, because like you're used to the Hutt voices being like, and you're not going to have Jeremy Allen White going, but he's going to be speaking basic, which is something I don't love necessarily. I get over it though. Maybe he just took a English course or basic course somewhere and he decided to. I don't know.
He just doesn't. We've had Bill Burr's Boston accent. Now we're gonna have Jeremy Allen White doing a Chicago accent for a Hutt.
Exactly.
I mean, a perfect Chicago accent for a Hutt.
Well, it does make sense. It does make sense to a degree. I will say, my little cold water is I don't love it when they do that with aliens. Like I said, that I think the first episode of Skeleton Crew, when they had like the kind of like the food guy who's like a New Jersey, like kind of I like alien speaking alien. I like that. It just makes it better for as far as enveloping me in the world. But whatever, it's still talent. It's still great. Here's my pitch though. Rada's gonna take over. He's taking over Dex's diner, trying to turn it into a 5-star establishment.
That's how we get the Hell's Kitchen show.
Get the bear. Get the bear.
The Hutt.
Just the Hutt.
That's what he calls Dex's diner. He calls it the Hutt.
Yeah.
Obviously, there might be a few like trademark things around there with Pizza Hut, but it's Disney. They can get around it.
It's 2 T's. It's good enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Last bit of news before we wrap things up here. Jeff Snyder also had some other stuff in his news letter, which he's usually pretty good on like scoops and everything else. So it'll be interesting to hear what it comes down to. He said that there's been a lot of chatter regarding the next Star Wars film that will go in front of the cameras. The momentum seemed to be behind James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi, given that Bo and him were cracking the script. And Mangold's schedule is about to be cleared up after the release of A Complete Unknown, which we just talked about as well. However, Snyder is hearing that the film that may be positioned as the next one up is Sean Levy's Untitled Project, which he's co-writing with Jonathan Tropper, who has worked with him several times in the past. Isn't definitive, of course. Everything could change depending on how the development continues for all these films, which are all being worked on in parallel. And Lucasfilm declined comment either way, which they generally do. But that does make sense to me, honestly, is that because I think that if anything can come together quickly, it'd be Sean's project. I think because Sean and Jonathan are it people right now. They can get things made. There's no question mark there. They are good at writing, and they write pretty quickly. They've done a lot of films over the years.
Just call Ryan.
Oh, Ryan Reynolds, exactly. And it feels like Sean Levy's is supposed to be a kind of like a one-off kind of film, kind of like unlike I think at least this is not like the trilogy they're talking about. Not talking about anything big. This seems to be kind of a one-off adventure film, which means they don't have to connect into things. They don't have to worry about connecting into things. Although then that being said, there was always the rumors that Ray might be involved in this movie. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. But that does kind of pass the sniff test for me. I kind of feel like Sean Levy being next would make a lot of sense to me as far as things go. So we're going to find out sooner than later. So I think you're going to find out a lot at Celebration. I think Celebration is going to be a treasure trove.
I think it's going to be kind of dry.
You think so?
I think it's going to be kind of dry.
I don't think how you possibly think that, because quite frankly, I think they have nothing else going on. So I think they got to make their announcements there. Like at this point, we have Andor season 2 that we know about. And what do we have after Andor season 2? We know about Vision season 3, and we know about Mandalorian and Grogu. Celebration and Ahsoka season. That's true. Ahsoka season 2. But like that's where we're going to have the announcement of all the things that are going to take place, especially film wise. I think that's because they're going to be in play by that point. Because Mando and Grogu will be like they're in post production at that point. They'll have the first trailer there, probably everything else. But what's coming up next will probably have started by then. Or about to start film. So
give man a Star Wars movie.
Okay. Let's here we are. Welcome back to Earth. And out of your dream world, and we'll go from there. So all right, let's finish this up. Let's talk about everything else next week. There's another bit of news. I'll drop it really quickly. Johnny Coyne coming back in Mandalorian and Grogu as well. He played the Shadow Council. He was one of the Shadow Council members during that Mando scene. Like that. What I like about that, I'll drop this off. I like that it feels like we're going to go into the Thrawn storyline more. I was a little worried that Mando and Grogu might be a little bit more standalone kind of thing. But I'd like to see.
I want that.
I don't want to be. Well, I wanted to connect a little bit because we got to build up towards the. If Dave's Mando movie is the end of the Mando universe, I think we gotta move things forward a bit. And so we have the Hutt as the bad guy. We have Johnny Coin in the background, a Shadow Council member, still pushing that part of the storyline forward. I think that's the best of both worlds. So we have a standalone a bit, but we also have building towards that finale we're going to get to. That's my thoughts. So. All right, where can the folks find you, Matty?
At Matty Morna on all social media, at my band Morna, at Morna Band on all social media, Morna, Mourner on all streaming platforms.
All right, you can find me at Paul Denuzzi, not B-Sky, not social, on the old Blue Sky, because I love it there compared to the old Twitter site, to be honest with you. And yeah, you can find me all over the channel. Got 2 New York White on film. We just threw out Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. Come back in the new year to finish up Nightmare on Elm Street, as well as Doctor Who. Has a Christmas special, which we'll dive into. That'll be our big blue box. Reviews still coming every other week with me and Lego. Queen podcast every week. Crown Jewels, of course. And yeah, that's about it. We will see you next week for the 4th episode of Skeleton Crew. And it comes out on my birthday, so happy birthday to me. And that's what I'm going to do is watch Skeleton Crew. So I'm happy as shit I'm watching new Star Wars.
We'll be celebrating your birthday next week for that.
Absolutely. For sure. Absolutely. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Peace out. May the Force be with you. Always.